Can I let you in on a little bit of a secret? And this is not leadership 101. This isn't something that is special. Just someone who's trying to figure out their job, their work, their business, leading a company, leading a team. It was never taught to me in business school or from any of my mentors to be front and center and willing to be out there as a public figure. That was something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed presentations in school. I enjoyed having, public speaking. And this is something that now, as you can tell from the title of the video, it's part of the job. No matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, if you're watching this because you're a leader in some capacity or another, especially if you're a business owner or a president or a CEO, it's now part of the job responsibility for you to be the face of the company, regardless of if you're getting PR or not. My name is Chris Milton. I too am a CEO of 323 Media, and this video is going to break down a little bit about why that's important and why the economy has shifted to be focused on all of the people who lead companies and why their opinion matters and why it works. So let's get into it. This video is something that I think has been a long time coming because of the way that social media has been growing, as well as the way that business leadership has been growing. And we haven't faced in our lifetimes, at least, a job market that had so much uncertainty as we've all kind of had over the past 5-6 years. I feel like good leadership is something that is always available, but depending on the type of situation, it's either happening behind the scenes or it's happening in the spotlight. And now we're at a place where growth should be happening in the spotlight. So I'm going to kind of illustrate this point by talking about a couple of people that I like and that I've liked to follow. The first is actually someone who started a company after leaving a really public facing role and decided to use skills to build his company in public. And that's Alex Blumberg of Gimlet Media, which has now been acquired and is still growing. And it was pretty cool to watch him on his podcast or listen to him on his podcast of startup and understanding almost as the biggest story that he was ever reporting on and being part of the audience and feeling like you're a fly on the wall while he was building his business. That was quite a while ago now. And before podcasting started getting huge, it was also a big part of how the media landscape shifted to storytelling and consuming content in a different way, and audio storytelling being something that was, not as popular as it had been for 50 or 60 years, pre-TV in terms of listenership. And I think this is something that is really interesting. So that's one example. I think the other example for us in the agency space and as marketers, everyone knows who Gary Vee is. But the other person that has popped up is Alex Hormozi, and making content immediately overnight and having millions of pieces of content and show up. These thought leaders and these people who decided to share what they were going through on a daily basis, be able to share their best practices, their failures, what's working, what's not, and unapologetically document it for us to all consume, turned into quite the marketplace. It turned into the marketplace that it is because that's who we trust. We like watching people that are a few steps ahead. And in some cases, like I think all of us who were young and wanted to be a professional musician or a professional athlete, those weren't a few steps ahead. Those were a lot of steps ahead of us. It still gave us a better picture of what the future could look like instead of just what a textbook was telling us or what we were learning in class and kind of building a career brick by brick. And so now that we're here in 2025, you can see that there's been a massive landscape shift in every industry. We have AI that is coming up and creating more content than ever before. It's also assisting everyone who's creating content. But this is where I think there's a need for a more authentic voice. Yes, the thought leadership space is there, but I just got off of watching 3 YouTube Shorts videos about a guy who built a business around snow removal in Ontario. Yeah, I'll link to it below. Stefan, he's building a great business. But it's really amazing that this is almost the evolution as well of these CEOs and presidents and entrepreneurs of what we used to see with TLC and Discovery Channel building documentaries about what people were doing day in and day out. That is kind of this new hybrid of vlogging. No matter what your style is, no matter what your take is, no matter how visually interesting your business can be, mine isn't really visually interesting day in and day out because so much of it is meetings with clients and working on things on my computer. It would just be, a time lapse of me at my desk for the most part. And, that doesn't seem to be as appealing as doing some work with your hands like you could as a business that is out in the field or doing things or building things or creating things day in and day out. So my encouragement for you is to take a few steps and understand how to really create more. The first is understanding that you are interesting to people, not just yourself, your family, your employees, your customers, but that what you do has a level of interest that's captivating and you can build an audience around. A lot of those people are going to be your customers. A lot of those people are going to be people who could even be in the industry, in unrelated businesses that don't compete with you, but they're cheering you on, they're rooting you on. The idea with this is that as the CEO, you're building confidence, you're building an opportunity to grow by gaining goodwill, by being able to have this as maybe the make or break of why someone would make a decision to work with you over one of your competitors because you have a voice. The second part of it is understanding what pieces of information you can actually share that will be interesting. This can be anything. This could be a tip that you've learned, a recap of a meeting. The bottom line is you don't need to feel like you're sharing every single detail that would allow somebody to go out and copy you or allow somebody whose name you mentioned or filmed in the background, allow them to get mad. You're sharing your best insights and the understanding of why you're doing what you're doing and the reasoning behind the reasoning that you're doing it. I would say the most anticipated product launches are actually some of the ones that you see on Kickstarter. They're incredibly interesting because typically you have the founder who's some sort of inventor who had a need. They created a video that positioned why they made a product and what problem it was solving. And then you got to see it come to life. And those videos are incredibly impactful. The problem is a lot of them don't document the journey outside of that one video that helps them launch. And I think that's where you come in. You've got tenure. You're not coming out and being someone new. You're coming out and understanding why there's an opportunity for you to do what you do every day, why you made a decision, what makes your product different. All of those things that come up naturally in meetings with colleagues and clients are the same things that you can share online, just in a little bit more of a public-friendly manner. The last part of it is understanding when you're creating content, you want to be able to create binge-worthy content. Appointment-based viewing has really gone downhill. You don't find people who are tuning in at one particular time per day to watch one particular show. When you have some time to watch something, there is always going to be something that's available for you to watch. We've learned this through all of the different streaming platforms, and it's now become the norm. Whether it's YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, it's all consumed content on demand. You need to be able to create an opportunity for somebody to do the same with you and binge your content. This doesn't change the format or the style that you want to create, but it does mean you want to have 20, 30, 40, 50 pieces of content that are available for somebody to dive into and say, wow, this is incredible. I want more. Give them more. Creating that rabbit hole so that somebody can dive deeper is really important. And so taking your approach when you're creating the content isn't necessarily about being perfect. It's about quantity leading to quality. And that's something that has been very true of almost all digital marketing. Same thing goes for blog posts. Same thing goes for social media posts. This is no different. You're creating content about you, your business, and you're going to get better at it the more that you do it. So take the time to really create a lot of that content. Take the time to record. Throw stuff out if you don't like it. But the bottom line is you want to be able to get better at it, and that comes with practice. But it also comes with practice after hitting publishing. This isn't like the movies where you're practicing your lines 50 times for one perfect take. No, this is about you being able to create something that works and then being able to do it again and again and again after it's published. So take that into account. Finally, before you start publishing things, you want to be able to scale up, knowing that people who understand who you are in person can kind of validate the content for you and understand, yeah, this is what you're like. This is exactly what you're like. Yeah, that representation of you breaking down how that meeting went is kind of the same thing as me sitting in the room. That's the type of content you want to create. Authentic. The authentic voice that you want to have come through that is exactly the same as the way that somebody would figure out who you are and get to know you after you started meeting them in person. Sometimes we put on a face for the camera. Sometimes we are a little bit different. Sometimes our energy is different. Our mood is different. Some people get completely hyped in front of the camera, and that's not what they're like in person. This is you. It's real. It's about your business and about creating content that gets your business to grow. So make sure you've got those people that can give it a stamp of approval and say, you know what? That's just like you. Now, this is the end of the video, not the end of the topic, because it's time for you to go start building. Watch this back over and over again if you need to. Take the time to really understand what can impact your business and start looking at the stats and use them to your advantage to start figuring out what topics are actually useful for people that are interested in you, your business, whether they're your customers or not. They'll have an idea of what you're best at speaking at and the amount of content that they want to consume. So get out there and start picking up your phone, recording, and telling the world more about you, your business, and what you do. All right, until next time.